What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and this video I want to talk about Phantom Blade Zero. We got the gameplay. I'm around 24 hours late, but I did watch it right when it came out, and I just kind of want to talk over it a little bit. The game looks awesome, and it's always looked awesome. I think it's just got that kind of pull-in factor ever since it was first revealed, okay? Now, we get to see a boss fight, all right? One singular boss fight, and what I kind of find interesting about these things, and I think my opinion has largely changed, as time has gone on. You think to like Black Myth, you think to Stellar Blade, you think to just some of these different games, okay, over the last couple of years that kind of come out of nowhere and almost like don't have a belief that they're even full games. And I think they've kind of proven time and time again that you really just have to focus on the idea, like what makes it special, and then hopefully just trust in the development team to fill out a whole game. And I'm talking about, you think about to Black Myth, they only ever showed like segments, right? And you think to Stellar Blade, only ever segments, and it's like, okay, is that formula, is what they're trying to do with the game going to expand and be able to take up 5, 10, 15, 20 hours of gameplay, right? And the answer actually for those two and others, okay, has been yes. Now, for Phantom Blade Zero, the reason I bring that up is because, it's largely pitched on idea. Like, it's got a standout look to it, and then you think about the gameplay, and specifically, I would say the fluidity, right? Like, it's kind of a mix of all of these games that we're talking about. I think I saw, like, it's not Souls-like, but it does focus a little bit more on like action, like chaining together combos. So maybe you think a little bit to Stellar Blade, but you know what? Black Myth is actually also kind of a mix of those things, but Stellar Blade is also maybe more of an action game than Black Myth. So you're kind of playing in that playground. But again, I think it's the fluidity. It's how that character moves and just the flips, the blocks. And, I'm a martial artist, so whenever I see games that have any kind of martial art in it, I get pretty excited. I don't know if you really want to classify this game as it, but just some of the ways that this character is like blocking behind their back, right? Some of like the sword techniques are just freaking insanely cool. Now, you do run the risk of like, think to like Star Wars Episode 3, right? When Anakin and Obi-Wan are like just spinning the sabers and they're doing it in thin air, and people oftentimes look at that and say, that's where you emphasize it to kind of do nothing, right? Like there's no reason to emphasize it. And I will say, from this gameplay that we saw, there is a little of that. I want to be fair, okay? I want to be fair, but I also want to be honest and say I'm liking what I'm seeing. That boss fight, the puppetry that's going on, it's super, super cool. And you see little moments throughout it. I mean, you can see the fluidity. You can see how the character is moving and spinning and spiraling and, striking and all that stuff. And it looks like a work of art. It honestly looks like a work of art. But I do see things in there where it's like spinning just to spin, or there's kind of moves. I guess I would say this: when the character misses, when they're not actually striking anything, which does happen a little bit in the gameplay, it looks kind of fancy just to be fancy. So kind of like that alarm in my head kind of goes off where it's like, okay, well, maybe there's something you could do there to kind of stop the attack because it kind of just looks ridiculous. But that's kind of it. I would honestly say that's kind of it. And then, well, there's one other part, which is what I already kind of said in the beginning. There has to be that belief from the consumers. And, well, actually, I'm not saying you have to believe anything. You could do whatever you want. But, they're showing some good stuff. But they are showing segments. Actually, Crimson Desert is another good example. We've seen very big segments, but we've also seen segments, right? And it's like, okay, can you tell a 50-hour open world game like that? And it's like, you kind of have to have just that belief that they'll do it at the end of the day, and we've seen companies do it. For Phantom Blade, it's kind of the same thing. We've seen snippets. We've seen like a gameplay type trailer or the reveal trailer. People were able to play it, right? Like the demo, the traveling demo around the world. And now we see this. We see those mechanics. We see that fluidity in play, but we also see, okay, well, this is a 6-minute boss fight. That's it. So can you have this boss fight and just the way the character is moving and the abilities and, like the fighting mechanics, can that translate to an entire game? Can that go to 20 plus hours or whatever the game's going to end up being, right? So that's not a negative. I would kind of classify it as something different, right? It's not a negative. It's a thought. It's something that as I'm watching it, I'm saying, okay, this looks really good. Is this going to be how it's going to play the entire game? And that's something, they're not ready to talk about or show. The game's still got a little while to go, but I'm impressed. I'm definitely impressed because, again, we are starting to get some games that kind of are coming out of left field, but they do feel familiar to another, right? Like they're not brand new, things that you've never seen before, but there's something special about each one. And that's the case here too. There's something special about this game, and they just have to kind of double, triple down on it, right? Which is what they're doing. And I think that was one of the main takeaways from this, is that, okay, I mean, you got these mechanics of like how to handle a boss fight. Like that boss fight looked really, really cool. Had multiple stage, well, kind of two, right? Two main stages, but really kind of dynamic and kind of, you're facing a boss, but you're also kind of facing, like the supporters of that boss at the same time. Then you get like the break, small cutscene, then you fight again. So, it's got some classic stuff, but how it does it and how the game actually reacts and how you fight, that's what has to be unique about this game, which it is. So I think it looks awesome. I cannot wait to see more, and I think we still need to. I think they obviously have to show us a couple more segments, a couple more boss fights, maybe some open world, or just, taking us from one place to the next in the game. Give us like 10 minutes of uncut gameplay, right? See what the game kind of looks like, and because those can make or break the game. And I think that's where like a Stellar Blade or Black Myth, both of them actually did quite well. We know what the mechanics were, we knew what the hook was, but okay, well, what about like all of those minutes in between these big epic boss fights? Do you have that down? I would say both games did, right? So this game kind of has to almost do the same thing. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.